Hey everyone, my name is Lamika McGee and I am the CEO and founder of Jane Sante LLC, where I'm a career coach and a youth mentor. And so I am excited to be with you all today to talk about another topic in regards to our leadership series for new supervisors. But before that, I want to say I hope that you all are staying safe and staying inside during this COVID-19 pandemic. I pray that you all are surrounding your families with love during this time and that you are staying encouraged. This will all be over soon. All right, so there are previous videos in this leadership series for new supervisors. So if you have not taken a look at those, please go back, take a look at those, and then come back and join me here. All right, so today's topic is how to hire great candidates. So it is very important that as a leader, you know and understand that you have to hire great candidates in order to be sure that you are getting the best work done and completed that you are responsible for, and then also making sure that there's still a cohesiveness on your team with the people that you hire. And so I have a couple of points for you today. Again, I have my trusty notebook because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything. All right, so point number one, make sure that you know your job's description in and out, okay? You have to know the position in order to know the type of employee that you're looking for. A lot of the times what I have seen with hiring managers is they say, I'm hiring for X position. So I'm looking in somebody's resume to see if they can do X position. And then when the candidate gets in the interview room, they're asking specific questions about the position and the hiring manager can't answer them. Why? Because they were just one-track minded with, I'm only looking for this title, but I'm not paying attention to the qualifications that are needed. So you as the hiring manager have to make sure that you fully understand the type of qualifications in a candidate that you're looking for, and you're not just looking at the name of the job, all right? Number two, make sure that you ask open-ended questions or situational questions, and then listen attentively to the answers that the candidate gives. And so what you don't want to do is ask questions that only give you yes or no answers. Yes or no answers aren't going to get you anywhere. And of course, a candidate is going to say yes to something that may actually be a no because they really want the job, right? So you want to ask situational questions. You want to ask open-ended questions to find out really where their mind is at in regards to the position and in regards to the qualifications. You want to make sure that you are completely seeing how their qualifications stack up with the job that you are trying to fill, all right? So situational questions would be something like, tell me about a time when you and your supervisor didn't get along and how did you handle the situation? Something like that. That will assess how the candidate actually goes about conflict management, right? And so you want to make sure that you ask open-ended questions or situational questions in order to get the candidate talking to see if they really do have what you need in order to fulfill the role, okay? Number three, you want to assess the candidate's inclusion with your current team. This is one of the things that was really big for me when I was hiring because of the fact that the job that I was on and the supervisor of was extremely stressful. And there were also a lot of moving parts to the job. It wasn't just, one track minded. I was in charge of multiple HR areas and multiple HR functions. And so each person that I hired held a specific function, and I had to make sure that they were competent enough to handle that function. But also they were coming into a team that was already well built, like a well-oiled machine. And so I had to make sure that whoever I brought in new would mesh well with the current employees that I already had. And if I felt like in the interview that, they might not get along with these two people, and I really needed them to get along with these two people because of what the role was, then, it didn't disqualify them from the job, obviously, if they had the qualifications, but it was just something that was in the back of my mind, like, ooh, this might be an issue later on down the line, even though I need to hire them, type of a thing. Because you never want to disqualify people just because they may not get along with your team, but you might want to keep a note as a supervisor that, hey, this person is really well qualified, and so I do want to hire them, but they may clash with this other person on my team. So I just need to be mindful of that and try to do what I can to prevent that before it happens, or maybe the person to get in and they become BFFs. You just never know. But when you are in interviews, you want to make sure that you pick up on these cues and that you're not just thinking, I just want to hire somebody, but also think, would this person be a great fit for my team as well? All right. But don't disqualify people just because you think in your mind that they won't get along. Make sure that you're still practicing fair hiring practices, okay? But just keep a mental note that it may be something you may need to address later on, and be prepared for it if you do have to, all right? Okay, number 4, pay attention to nonverbal cues in interviews. One of the things that I used to love about sitting in interviews was watching how people actually were. You could always tell the people who were really nervous because they'd be, tapping on things, or their legs are bouncing back and forth, or, they may be a little shifty. Like, you just never know. And that was in person. Another way that I always like to hear people interview is when we did phone interviews, because it let you know how a person really viewed their interview by the background noise in their phone. Like, one time there was an interview that I was a part of, and the person was microwaving their food while we were doing the interview. And I was like, wow, we're asking you questions and we hear you like putting your food in the microwave, closing the door, pressing the buttons, hitting start. Like, we hear all these things that are happening. There was another person who was at a shopping mall, and like they stopped in the middle of the food court to hold their interview. So we're hearing all this noise in the background. If you are really serious about this job, then you will make whatever provisions you need to make to ensure that you are in a place where you can concentrate, where you can really hear what the interviewers are asking you, and things like that, right? So these are the things that we pay attention to as hiring managers, and that you should pay attention to when you are trying to select a candidate, is what are their nonverbal cues and what's going on around them if you're doing interviews by phone, or if you're doing interviews by, virtual interviews, things like that. And then, watch. Sometimes you can tell if somebody's being dishonest by the way they answer a question, a whole lot of ums and ahs, shifty eyes, things like that, right? So you have to use your best judgment, but pay attention to the nonverbal cues that a candidate is giving off. If they seem like they're really engaged and they're really excited about the job, they really want it, they're well prepared, they can answer your questions right off back, they have the qualifications, that's your ideal candidate, right? So you got to pay attention to those things. And number 5, it's not mandatory, but I would recommend having an HR person present when you are doing interviews. That's one of the things that I really tried to do before the job really got busy and I couldn't really make that happen anymore. But one of the things that I did was myself and my team, we would be in the interviews. Either one of my team members would be in the interviews or I would personally be in them, because we wanted to make sure that 1, the best hiring practices are being followed, 2, that the interviewers are not asking questions that are illegal to ask. So we wanted to make sure that everybody got a fair shot across the board. All of the same questions were being asked of the candidates, and they weren't being asked illegal questions, things like that. And it turned out to be really good, because when we were sitting in the interviews, the interviewers would look over and be like, hey, Lamika, can I ask that question? Is that a good question to ask? And I'd be like, yes, that's a good question to ask. That's okay. Or after the candidate would leave, the interviewers would be talking amongst themselves, and then they turn around and say, hey, Lamika, your HR opinion, what do you think about this candidate? And you're able to provide your input. So it's always good, I think, and it's a good practice to have an HR person sit in your interviews, just so that they can make sure that things are flowing the correct way, that nothing illegal is going on, and for you to also provide your professional opinion. And so, I was quite proud of that, because I was able to be a part of hiring some really, really good people for the office. And it was just a great experience all around. And then when I actually started doing my own interviews, for my own team, and sitting in on interviews with other supervisors for their teams, it was easy for me to just spot things right off the bat. So, I'd be like, ooh, I don't think that's going to be a good candidate. Ooh, this is a really, really good one, and there were times where I had to go back and forth forth, like, I think this is a really good person. And the other interviewer would be like, I don't know, whatever, I'm not sure. And I would advocate for that particular candidate. We'd get the candidate on board, and then they would soar. And it would happen like that the other way around too. I'd be like, I don't know about that one. And then the other one would be like, well, I think they might be great. And then they turn out to be really great, right? So it's good to have that accountability, to be able to bounce things off of one another, to make sure that you are hiring someone that would be a really good fit for your team and for your organization and the mission as a whole. And so that is it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed these tips. And please make sure that you like, follow, and share this video. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Janae Sante. And make sure that you visit my website, www.myjscoaching.com, where you can see all the other services that I have available. And then if you are a new supervisor or looking to go into a leadership role and you just need some one-on-one help and mentorship, you can also reach out to me at info@myjscoaching.com. I look forward to seeing you in the next installment of the leadership series for new supervisors. You all stay safe.